Welcome everyone to my channel. I am Leanne, your host, and this is the non-spoiler review part of the video for Black House by Stephen King and Peter Straub. This story is part of a duology called The Talisman. Now, if you have not read The Talisman, you need to go back and read The Talisman and then read Black House because they're good. They're very good. And The Talisman is connected to the Tommyknockers. Black House is connected to the Dark Towers. Okay? So that's 3 worlds connected in one series so far. So that's like beautiful, okay? Beautiful. I like that. I like that. So this book is about a man's quest to find a killer and stop the gruesome deaths from happening. Now, really, it's all about Jack Sawyer and his traversing of the territories. So when we read this book, it is a sequel to Talisman, and I loved it, and I wanted to see if I would love this one too. Spoiler alert, I did. I loved it. I loved it. I did. Okay, so this is what's on the back of mine, because that's what I'm going to read from now on, okay? 20 years ago, a boy named Jack Sawyer traveled to a parallel universe called the Territories in order to save his mother and her twinner from an agonizing death that would have brought cataclysm to his own world. Now Jack is a retired Los Angeles homicide detective living in a small Wisconsin town, with no recollection of his adventures in the Territories, and having been compelled to leave the force when a fateful event threatened to awaken those long-suppressed and dangerous memories. As a series of gruesome murders strikes the region, laying reminiscence of heinous crimes committed several decades earlier, Jack's friend, the local chief of police, begs him to help find the killer. But is this new bloodshed merely the work of a disturbed individual, or has a mysterious and malignant force been unleashed in this quiet little town? What causes Jack's inexplicable waking dreams, if that's what they truly are, of rubbing eggs and red feathers? As these cryptic messages become impossible to ignore, Jack finds himself drawn back to the Territories, into the treacherous secrets of his own past. The genre is horror, suspense, thriller, what have you. Stephen King. If you don't really know what kind of book Stephen King reads, go look it up. Stephen King writes a lot of horror, thriller, suspense type novels. So did this live up to my expectations? Yes, it did. It was wonderful. It was great. It was wonderful. So from there we go to something I want to talk about. The one flaw I think that Stephen King has in his narratives is that he likes to delve deep, and I mean deep, into the everyday lives of the people in his world, who they are, what they're doing, how they came to be that way, deep into it. You get a lot of background on a lot of characters, and that usually takes up the first chunk of the book. So what I mean by that, even though this didn't take up that much of a chunk, that's still a decent amount. Like right here, that's a decent amount. That's decent. That's a decent amount of the story. And then like the setup of what happens and how things go is like how they figure out things and do stuff and work on their business, like that right there is them realizing that kid has gone missing. They're trying to work out how the kid's gone missing. Jack's being woken up and realizing the Territories are still real, so he's flipping between worlds and trying to figure out what's going on, what's involved. And all the characters are getting together, gathering up, trying to solve the mystery of the murders, and you're also getting the murderer side of things, so you know who's murdering. You already know who's doing the murdering, who's doing the what, that's going on within it and everything. You already know. You already have a clue. You've already been given it. So this is just basically the build-up, and this is the fall. This is the fall. This is them going out rescuing the last kid that was kidnapped before he gets eaten or killed or whatever, and fighting the bad guy in a different world that's not really the territories. But if you want to know more about that, stay tuned for the non-spoiler part of this review. And yes, these are going to be more condensed down, so I can speak more on the spoiler reviews than the non-spoiler side, because I want to. And I want to note that I don't really see Peter Straub's writing in this. I don't really know what his prose, what anything is that he writes. I've never read a Peter Straub before besides The Talisman in the Black House. I do have a book by him called Floating Dragon, so when I do read it, I'll be able to see what the difference is between his writing and Stephen King's writing, because I have read Stephen King's books before that were just straight Stephen King, and this one is two of them, and I can't really differentiate the difference between Stephen King's writing and Peter Straub's writing in this. So I'm wondering if they write basically the same way, and that's why they could teamed up and wrote a duology that just didn't feel like two authors writing it. It did not feel like there was two authors writing this. It just felt like one, and they felt like Stephen King's. And it's not a dig on Peter Straub, it's just the fact that I'm inexperienced with Peter Straub's writings, so I can't really relate to his writing in any way, shape, or form. So there's that. Now this does deal with heavy-handed stuff, and by heavy-handed I mean it's children being kidnapped, lives are unalived, and on top of that, there's cannibalism in this as well, which is, it's gruesome like Stephen King's books are. There's a lot of bad stuff that goes on, a lot of murder, a lot of blood spraying and unaliving going on. And I gotta say, they killed off a character I didn't want him to kill off, okay? One of the characters in here, I wanted him to live. And yeah, that's a little bit of a spoiler. It's a he. I wanted him to live because I don't know, I liked him. I liked him a lot, okay? I liked him. I did. So, there's that. There's a little bit in my book right there from reading it. But hey, what can you do? Okay. So this is a little different from normal things. And I think maybe I guess that could be like the difference between Peter Straub and Stephen King, is that there's a narrator. And by a narrator, it's just somebody breaking the fourth wall, basically. And it's not even somebody. It's like a cloud or something. Like a particle, a speck. And that's it. Because it says, right here and now, as an old friend used to say, we are in the fluid present, where clear-sightedness never guarantees perfect vision. Here, about 200 feet, the height of a gliding eagle above Wisconsin's far western edge, where the vagaries of the Mississippi River declare a natural border. Now, an early Friday morning in mid-July, a few years into both a new century and a new millennium, their wayward course is so hidden that a blind man has a better chance of seeing what lies ahead than you or I. Right here now, the hour is just past 6 a.m. So, basically, it's like saying we're in this world, like we're part of it, because we glide away from the river and over the shining tracks. So it's saying we, us, and including us, like we're part of this little entity that goes around, traveling around and seeing things that are not there. Like, it brings us everywhere. And it breaks the third wall a lot. Pointing out things and telling us things. There's not a lot of foreshadowing in this. Because they break it. The gliding thing, the glittering around, we're breaking the fourth wall. We're breaking the foreshadowing because it says things like, "This is the last time you'll hear from him," or something. It's fourth wall breaky, and it gives away very much a lot of stuff. Like here, for example, beside him in her own slate, Judy began to whisper, "Gorg, Abala, the Chrism King, in a woman's name." They could have left it a mystery right there. Like, that would have been a good suspenseful moment. But they go, "The name is Sophie." Like, where is the suspense? I mean, the foreshadowing there. Or maybe I'm getting it mixed up. There's a lot of suspense in here. Like, you don't know whether or not the last character is going to be cannibalized in some way, shape, or form, even though you do find out that he needs to live. So, you do meet a lot of police officers in this. There's a shit ton of them, but I guess the only one that is really important to know, well, two. Yeah, there's about two. So one of them is Arnold Hebrovsky. He was called the Mad Hungarian because he did things wrong while trying to do the right thing. His name was actually changed when he knocked out a reporter for trying to re-engage an angry mob. And the reason why he was called Mad Hungarian is because he thought he could do whatever he wanted. So when the chief of police said, "Don't say anything to anybody at all, not even when the person who replaces you comes in to replace you, don't spear the word." And he's like, "I'm going to tell my wife about this." And it causes chaos, and it causes the chief of police to lose the ability to investigate in it because the FBI and the state troopers are the ones that take over because of the mess that he made. Now, Dale Gilbertson is actually the chief of French Landing, where the main story takes place. He actually became friends with Jack while they were investigating in a murder of somebody who lived in French Landing. Well, not a murder, a murderer, a serial killer. He was often poor ladies on the streets. And Jack listened to something somebody said, went and investigated, listened to what that person said, and saw the person and realized it was the person and got them arrested. Now that brought along some bitterness with his wife, which ends up making it to where Jack can no longer come back into his normal world. He's stuck in the territories. He's stuck in the territorial world and unable to go back to the normal world, the world he grew up in, the world he lived in for all of his life, without having to leave within a couple of hours before, or else he would die from the wound she gave him, and she gave him several wounds. Like, this Wendy girl, she went ballistic because she thought her husband could never do what he was accused of doing, even though he confessed to it all. Now, there is a slime ball in this. 2 slime balls, actually. There are 2 slime balls in this. And one of them was William Chipper Maxon. He owned a facility where the bad dude lived. A fisherman. He was 80-something years old, but because he made a deal with Abalone, the Chrism King, he was able to feast on the joys of children's body parts, like a kidney and other stuff, and do what he wanted with, which is capture powerful children who could break down the tower which held all of the multi-universes together and separate. So, yeah. He was skimming. Maxon was skimming from his own place, from people who lived there, the people who were there to be there. And he was also cheating on his wife with his secretary. Like, that's skimming. And then the other one is Wendell Green. He was a photographer, a news reporter who took his own photos, made his own sensations, and he wanted to take pictures of a little girl with no clothes on, a dead little girl with no clothes on, to make money, a lot of money. Sell those photos to make moolah, uncaring of the violation of that. You're violating somebody. They might be they're dead, but you're still violating them. And it's a terrible thing to do. It really is. Okay. So the real bad guy, nicknamed the Fisherman, like King Fisher was, Charles Burney Burnside. His real name was Carl Bearstone. He was eating the parts of some of the 3 known children that he offed. The 4th one, Tyler, was actually a powerful being, and thus he was only going to skim some of the buttocks off of him and then hand him over to Mr. Munson, which is the helper of the Chrism King. I'm hoping the Dark Towers has the Chrism King in it, and it has all the interconnections to it, and maybe even some of Jack in it, because it says that Jack is to help out with the other territories, the other worlds out there, and to help defeat the Chrism King, because he's the one who touched the talisman, which was the ultimate thing that tied all worlds together in a way that can make you control them. Now, Judy Marshall, Tyler's mother, had a twinner in the territories that she called far away, and that was Sophie. And Sophie was trying to tell Judy that your son's in danger, you need to protect him from this person and that person and this thing. And it drove Judy cuckoo. She went nuts. She started eating things, tearing into wool, trying to get into the other side, trying to get too far away. Because she didn't understand. And when she finally was put into a mental health facility, she understood what was going on. And she's sitting there like, I know what needs to be done. Sophie told me you were coming here. Help us out. I know what to do now. I understand things. I understand that I can only go there in mind, but you can go there in body, and yeah. Fred Marshall was like, yeah, I'm just gonna go along with this because I love my wife and I want my kid back, and that's about all he cared about, really. Tyler is what we call a breaker. He can break things with his mind, which he does. He destroys his big grinding tower saw or something with a lot of mechanics on it that was trying to break one of the beams. That a lot, and I do mean a lot, of children from different territories, including the normal realm, were there forced to spin the thing around to break the beam, where they could never leave because they weren't powerful enough to be breakers, but they were special children regardless. Tyler was to be used to do big blasts, and he actually destroys that thing with like one blast of his mind. He's just like destroys it all, and it doesn't take him a lot of effort either. So yeah, that's why he was kidnapped, to be brought to the tower, so the Chrism King could have more powerful breakers, because that's what he wants. Powerful breakers to break the beam, so the tower will crumble down, and all of the worlds become one. And that would be bad. Very bad. Very, very bad. So bad. Now, we're going to talk about 4 more people. About 4 more people. No, 3. One of them that we want to talk about is Armand Beezer Saint Pierre. His daughter was the first one to sadly pass away, and he, a leader of a biker group called the Thunderhead, and also a person who brews, offers to help Jack in the other world to get Tyler back, because he doesn't want no more children to suffer. And he was upset about the other 2 children that had gone missing after his, and he was trying to get Dale to understand that you need to find these children. You need to be doing something. You need to be doing more. And he was willing to help out and be there. Even though 2 of the people that ride and die with him left. They thought he was crazy, cuckoo. And another one died because he was bitten by a wolf that was contaminated by the other world. And yeah, it was just a lot going on there. Now, Gorg is a bird that could talk, and he did the biddings of the Chrism King, and he talked to Tansy Fernaro, was the mother of Irma Fernaro, that was the last child found unalived, and poisoned her into gathering a mob up at the police station to give them the person that was framed. So the person that was framed was... What's his name? What's his name? Did I not put his name in here? I don't see it. Oh no. Oh no, it's down further. Alright. Jeez. George Potter, or Potsy. Somebody who swindled Charles Burnside and was... evidence was planted in his home to make him seem like he was the one who did it, even though he wasn't. Let's see. We already talked about Wendell Green. We already talked about Arnold. Sophie of Canaan, Judy's twinner and current queen of the territories. Somebody that Jack saw very briefly, but she knew about as well when they were very young. She was abused by Morgan Sloat's twinner, Morgan Osiris, until the point of being able to have children of her own. So Tyler, like Jack, are ones that don't have a twinner in the territories. So a rarity there. So that means they can come and go between worlds because they don't have nobody connecting them into that world. Like Judy and Sophie can't go into each other's world because there's somebody there connecting them. And if one dies, the other one's going to die. Tyler never had a twinner to begin with. And Jax, of course, survived when his twinner was offed. Now, Jack, the one that can flip between different worlds and protect it, he saw a dead body of a black African American man, whatever you want to call him, who looked a lot like Speedy Parker, who I must say Speedy Parker died, but Parkus, who was his twinner, did not. And it almost brought back all the memories from the territories, so it made him quit being part of the Los Angeles County Police Department, the Homicide Division, the lieutenant there. It made him stop, so he could get away from it. So, Crap. Where was I going with this? Jack retired at the age of 30 something. 35, 34, something like that. Years old, and he had a lot of money because of his mother, because of the trust funds his mother had set up, and everything. So he had his life was set. He didn't have to worry about nothing. He bought this old farmhouse that his friend Dale's father owned, and he lived right next to one of Dale's uncles. Well, Dale's uncle. He realized something was wrong because he found robin eggs, one in his fridge with the other eggs, another one in his dash of his truck, and then he found feathers. He was having dreams, and then he flipped and realized that, okay, the territories are real. I didn't imagine it. It's not imagination. It's real. It's there. So he's like, okay, this is real. This is there. I need to do something about this information. So then he realized that Tyler is actually in another world and connected to the other worlds and the supernatural, and that only he has the knowledge of that stuff. So he decides that he's going to bring in his best friend, Henry, Dale's uncle, in on it to help out. Because he thinks, he deserves to know. Henry deserves to know because Henry's my best friend. We hang out together. I read to him because Henry's a blind, cool ass dude, and I don't mind sharing this with him because I'm asking him a big help to help me find the fisherman, because that's how they find out who the fisherman is. Even though they have a name, they don't know where he lives, and he's hoping that Henry may have heard the person speak and might know exactly where the person is. Of course he did. He's like, oh, this guy lives at the Mexican elderly care facility, and he leaves a message as he's dying for Jack to find out. So Jack brings along Dale, Beezer, and Doc to help him rescue Tyler, and they're like, oh crap, all this shit's real, what are we gonna do? He gave Tyler the knowledge and helped destroy a big, huge crank, that's what it's called, that would have destroyed the beams connecting to the Tower of the Other Worlds. Wendy shot him. Wanda Kingerling shot him several times, and in the end, he could no longer stay in the normal world, but for a couple of hours. He's stuck in the territories with the love of his life, Sophia. And he woke up with her watching over him, so that was kind of sweet. Yeah, what really killed me was Henry Layden's death. Now, at first, I didn't really care for him because he's several people. He's George Rathburn, the loud, the proud person who gives you the news and other things in the mornings. And he's the Wisconsin rat, which does dirty damn things. And Henry Shake. He was killed by the fisherman. He was off, unalive, and it's sad because Henry was just a blind dude who had a really keen sense of smell and a very good hearing, where he could hear things that other people couldn't. Like, he knew somebody was taking photographs of somebody or something, and he didn't know who it was or why they were doing it, but he knew that it was happening. He's the one who remembered hearing the fisherman's voice, knowing where to connect it and everything. And he even remembered his own wife. And the perfume, which was used against him by Gorg. Thank you, Gorg, for being a dick. Jack killed Gorg. Good Jack. Kill the Gorg. And there were so many other people in it that it was just a lot of people. Because, like, Stephen King likes to introduce a lot of people in most of his books and give you a rundown, but mainly of who they are, what they're doing, and why they're doing it. So, my favorite character, if you haven't figured out, was Henry. Not Jack, though Jack is his second favorite, okay? Because he didn't let blindness stop him from living his life the way he wanted to. Like, literally the only thing he couldn't do was drive. He could cook for himself, he could dress himself, the system that was set up by his wife before she died, and was what allowed him to do that stuff. And he figured he could be a good driver if people would just let him get behind the wheel, which they wouldn't, because they, you can't see, dude, you can't see. So my most disliked character was Charles Bernie Burnside, a gross man. Yeah, cannibalized innocence. Yay, yay, big innocence. What stood out and memorable was that Jack can travel to other worlds beside the territories because he touched the talisman. He had leftover power from it that helped him save Taylor. So, like, there's other territories now that he can travel to, and you didn't know he could travel to them. Maybe it's through access through a doorway or something, and that's the only way he can travel to them. And he can't automatically flip like he used to. My favorite passage from the story is someone is comforting Jack Sawyer. Someone is wishing him well. A loving, invisible presence offers him support. It feels like a blessing, that support. Clothed in his glowing black and yellow bee suit, Jack has the idea that if he stepped toward the sky, he would be airborne. It's like a connection, okay? Because there is a movie playing when he went to go talk to Beezer about stuff. And in the movie, his mother was trying to swat this fly, and the bartender was like, didn't know how that happened, and he like explained it. It's like one of my favorite movies. And then when Dale and Beezer and Doc were in there with Lester and they were watching the movie, he quoted some lines from it, and he goes, I know all of her lines. And they're like, how do you know her lines? He goes, that's my mother. I know all of her lines from all of her movies, because, my mother died. And the bee is like a connection to that, because it warms him, covers him. The bees cover him up, and then the bees cover up his car to protect the people that are going in it. And they use honey to help Doc, Dale, and Beezer from becoming sick from the sickness that happens with getting too close to a territory that they're not allowed to be inside of. That's trying to warn them away, trying to keep them away. And it's mainly belief and faith. And that's what he uses the honey for, is making them believe and have faith that it works to keep them from getting sick, like they did when they first found the house. Well, Beezer and Doc and his friends. There's also the fact that the bees, the queen bee, showed them the way through the house, because the house was big and confusing and shifting and never the same size. So, there was that. My favorite quote, he listens. Dale thinking that about Jack, because that's what Jack did. Jack listened to everything everybody said, took everything into account, didn't dismiss anything, and it's most likely because he subconsciously knew that there were things out there that couldn't be explained, and he just had to listen to it to be able to understand it. What I thought about the end of the book, oh my god. Thank the Lord's Jackson. I was going to cry my little bawling eyes out if he didn't survive the gunshots Wanda gave him. I mean, like, dude, you can't do that to me, okay? You can't kill off the main character at the end of the book. That's not right, okay? It's not. I mean, yes, it's the end of Jack's life as far as we know it, unless he is somehow in the Dark Towers, which I can probably see happening. But still, you can't get rid of my boy. That's just not how it goes. It's not how it goes, okay? He deserves all the love in the world for all the hardships in his life. I mean, yes, he saved his mother, but he died in the end, and he still had to live with the trash that he had to go through in the talisman. All that terrible stuff. All the terrible stuff that happens in this. Finding a little girl's unalive body with heart's missing. He got the foot, which is gross. And then Tyler. I am so happy Tyler was found alive and that he actually ended the fisherman's life himself. Like, the fisherman had gut problems because he got shot. No, he got knifed. Henry knifed him and cut open his stomach. And, Tyler, in his infinite wisdom of not wanting to get his buttocks chopped off, took his hand, which, because one of them was strapped up through a bar and he could no longer get it out, he took his hand and he shoved it inside the dude's stomach and pulled out the dude's intestines, killing the fisherman with his own two hands, well, his one hand. And then, through his determination, he actually got the key to the handcuff that was locking him in place out of a bag. Of course, his fleeing and escaping was destroyed by Mr. Munson. Mr. Munson caught him. There's nothing you can do about that, okay? But he lived. I just wish he would have kept Henry alive. I understood Henry wanted to go be with his wife. And yes, that's great. Wonderful. You deserve it, dude. But you didn't deserve to... You didn't need to leave Jack alone, even though Jack's not in that world, so I guess there ain't nothing you can do, but Jack's gotta mourn your death anyways. What book did it remind me of? Well, obviously it reminded me of The Talisman, because... It reminded me of The Talisman, because that's the prequel to this book. The same universe with one person that's the same. Two people who were in the previous book, and the rest a new cast of people. I really like Beezer too. He was pretty good. So this book is part of a duology called The Talisman. There are only 2 books in it, so it's called a duology. The Talisman and then The Black House. Really good. Really good. Really good. I rate this a 5 because I mean, like, it gripped you. Once it got into the swing of things, it gripped you and it did not let you go until Jack opened his eyes at the end. And yes, I understand that Welcome to Cooley County, the very first beginning of it all, is what won't grip you. But if you are a lover of Stephen King, you already know that the first part of the book will be a little slow because he likes to introduce a lot of the characters that are going to be the main stars of the book. And if you've never read a Stephen King book before in your life and you want to start, I would suggest not starting with A Talisman or even Black House. I would go with like Cujo, Pet Cemetery, or even Misery, which is a lot less than what this is, and then dive into it so you can get a feel for it and whether or not you would like it, because this is just perfection in my book. It just trim the introduction just a little bit, please. We don't need to know why he's got a blue truck. Or, why would you introduce, like, literally, you introduce somebody named, where is it? Toots Billinger, Noodle Sanger, Freddie Secondessum, Teddy Runcontman. They're in the book for, like, 10 pages and that's it. You're not even in it for very long. Like Pam and Debbie, they're officers. They're not in it for very long. You don't get to see Elvana for very long, and she's the caretaker of Henry. Let's see. T.J. Renniker, Ronnie McDesser, Evie Wexler, who were people that Tyler hung out with. They're not in the story for very long either. You also have Jeffrey Black and Perry Brown and John P. Redding, which are, you know, the state detectives and the FBI. They're not in it for very long. You only get to see a very brief interaction between Dale and his son David. And then there's this Morris Rosenson, a tweaker that figured out Henry's secret identity, which is what is causing him around, to give him a CD2. He's in one shot. One. The very beginning. What's the point of naming some of these characters? Ow, did I just fucking give myself a paper cut from my book? Okay, I'm sorry. I'll quit bad mouthing the book. The book scratched me. I will quit bad mouthing you. Okay, we'll just end this here before my book decides to beat me up even more. I don't know why that. So I will see you. Okay, I will see you next illusion.